Hi everyone, welcome back. Let's take a look at some keyframing now. So we've already sort of looked in previous sessions at how we can keyframe objects to move from one point to another point, or scale up from one size to another size, or rotate, things like that. This is a similar principle, except that instead of having an object that we're actually physically moving around the screen, what we're doing is we're setting keyframes for these sliders to go back and forth, okay? And that's going to make the face change from one shape to another. And what we need to do basically is that process, but in time with the audio that we have in our timeline, okay? So I'm going to start off just by showing you how to keyframe these things, and then what we'll do is actually then go through and keyframe against some audio. Once you've got that process down, pretty much you can apply that to all your entire audio tracks. Okay, so I'm not going to, do an animation of an entire audio track because it would be basically just the same thing over and over again. Once you've got the basic techniques down, you just keep repeating them for your dialogue. All right, so let's take a look at how the animation works. So basically, what we need to remember is when we start from sort of our start pose like this, for example, and then we're going to move the character's mouth to a new position, we have to set a keyframe at the point where the movement starts, and then another keyframe at where the movement finishes, to get the character to go from one facial expression to another. Okay, so what we're going to do is basically get the character to let's get him to kind of let's see, we'll make him go from normal to angry, okay, which is this brows down. Okay, so what I need to do is first of all work out what frame my character's face is going to start changing. So let's say that's going to be, for me, frame 10. Okay, I'm going to disable my audio for a second. I'm going to right click and go to sound off, okay, just to hide that for this. That way, as I'm playing this animation, it's not going to play the audio. Okay, so I've got my timeline. My character's eyebrows are going to start going angry starting at frame 10. So I'm going to move to frame 10, and I'm going to come across to my brow control. This is the brows down, and I'm going to press key. Now what you'll notice is that number goes red, but you won't see a keyframe inside the timeline just here. And this is one of the irritating things with Maya's blend shape system. It makes it very difficult to see where your keyframes actually are because they don't show up. We can see them in the graph editor though, so we might open the graph editor up in a bit. Okay, so then what I need to do is decide how quickly the character's eyebrows are going to go from normal to angry. Now, if he's really angry, it's going to be really fast. So it might only be at 2 or 3 frames. So I'm going to say I want him to be completely angry at frame 13. Okay, so I'm going to move down the timeline like this. Now, one of the things I've noticed just here, which is new, is when I've got a keyframe, I know I've keyframed on frame 10, that's solid red. When I move down the indicator, it goes pink. So the brightness of this, or the vividness of this, is actually indicating where the keyframes are. That's new. So on frame 13, I'm going to set my brows to completely angry, like this. Now I need to keyframe that here. Okay, if I just leave it, it's not going to lock this position in. So I'm going to press key, and you'll see that that goes red. So now, when I scrub between 10 and 13, you'll see my character gets angry. And you'll notice that this number, when I'm in the frames in between, so 11 and 12, it's pink. And when I go on 10, where my first keyframe is, it's red. And on 13, it's also red, where my second keyframe is. Okay, so that's how we get the shape to turn on. So how do we get it to turn off? Well, it's the same process, but the other way around. Now, let's say my character somebody said something stupid to my character. My character's sort of a bit annoyed by it, so he gets angry. And the person that he's talking to is kind of, you know, continuing to talk and continuing to say stupid stuff. And that might go on until about frame 30. Okay. So I need to keep him angry all the way along to frame 30 before he then changes back to whatever his next expression is going to be. Okay. What a lot of people forget to do is if they're holding an expression, they forget to put a keyframe here to tell the system to actually continue in this pose. So what I need to do is hit a keyframe here. So now it's going to stay in this pose between frame 13, where my last frame was, all the way along to here. Now, the next frame I do is going to change it to whatever the next expression is going to be. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have one of his eyebrows go up a little bit. Okay. Now, I haven't done individual eyebrows yet. So what I'm going to do is use this as the starting point for an individual eyebrow. So what I'm going to do is use the one of these eyebrows down here. I might do the left one. So I'm going to keyframe that as well on this frame 30. If I then move, maybe I want this to kind of go up slowly, so I might go 38. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is increase this brow value here, like that. Now I need to be careful when I'm blending multiple blend shapes together like this, because sometimes it might make the face go a bit twisted. Okay. So I'm going to keyframe this one here, and what I'm going to do is adjust the brows down. And I'm going to drop that down a little bit so that it kind of relaxes the face just slightly. So if I bring this back down, you can see now this eyebrow's okay. So I might leave it about there. I'll keyframe that. Now I kind of think this eyebrow's a bit too high. So what I'm going to do is back this down a little bit to about there, and then I'll re-keyframe that. Notice how that's gone white? I'm just going to re-keyframe that. Okay, so let's go through the sequence. So from 0 to 10, what I've got is the character basically doing nothing. On frame 10, the eyebrows get keyframed where they are. And that's basically saying, at this point, this is the position of the eyebrows. Then the eyebrows start to change between 10 and 13. And at 13, they reach their full angry pose, which is here, and that's keyframed to make it change to that on frame 13. Then it holds that position until frame 30, because I keyframed the same position again, the same value here. I keyframed this again on frame 30, and that's keeping the eyebrows in this position for all of that time. Then what I've done is decided I want now the character to relax a little bit. So in order to do that, I've decided I want one of his eyebrows to go up a bit further than the other. So I need a starting frame for that expression. So I've keyframed that expression off to begin with, here on 30. And I've already got my brows down keyframed as well. And then over on 38, which is the time at which I want my character to kind of look like this, I've backed off the angry expression almost all the way off. It's at about 0.17. Okay, and I've increased the up value on this eyebrow by 0.6, so about 60%. And I've keyframed them both on 38 to do that. So that's what we get now. Okay, so this is going to be really quick. Keep in mind this is about 1 second. It's a bit over a second. So that's what he's going to do. So angry, hold, and then relax. Okay, so let's say here at 38, from 38 to 45, I now want the character to go back to his normal pose. Okay, now if I don't put in any additional frames in between, or move up the timeline a little bit, and then re-keyframe these two expressions, he's not going to hold that pose. He's going to go straight from reaching that position back to his normal pose. So there's no hold, and I'm going to show you that because this is something that a lot of people do. They don't realize they're doing it. Okay, so from 30 to 38, he goes from this all the way up to this. And then what I'm going to do is immediately keyframe it back down to its normal position. So I'm going to do that over 5 frames. So I'm going to go to 45. And I'm going to drop both of these values, both of these controls back down to 0 and keyframe them both. Now what that's doing is, so he's angry, then he relaxes and his eyebrows go up. But then straight away, because there's no hold here, there's no gap where I've kind of done 2 of the same keyframes with some space between, they're going to go straight back down to normal. Okay, so it's like a transitional pose. So let's watch how that plays. So there's the hold, and then he relaxes and then goes straight back to normal without a hold. Okay, so if you want one shape to change to a completely different shape without any kind of pause, you basically would need 3 keyframes. One for the starting position, one for the position that the expression changes to, and then another one for whatever it changes to next. If you want to pause, you need a starting keyframe, then a keyframe for the change, then you need another keyframe with the exact same position further down the timeline to hold that expression, and then you need a 4th keyframe to turn it to whatever the expression is going to be next. Okay, so if you want to pause, you have to have 4 keyframes. Okay, if you don't want to pause and you just want sort of expression to go from A to B to C straight away, you just have 3 keyframes for that. Bit of a weird process, but the more you practice that, and once you get to sort of understand it, that's basically the process for your entire animation. Okay, so I'm going to leave this one here, and in the next one we'll animate to some audio. So we're kind of stepping it up to the next stage. Okay, I'll see you then.